So it's been a couple of weeks since I chopped and dropped all the fava beans or broad beans into the, now going to the potato bed. Generally when you chop and drop and you're using whatever plant like mustard or your fava beans or any other type of legume, clovers, if you're chopping, dropping into your garden, you're going to use it as green manure. You want to give it 4 to 6 weeks to properly decompose and release all its nutrients into the soil. Doing beforehand, you have the potential that the organic matter hasn't fully broken down yet. The living organisms haven't been able to make the nutrients bioavailable, and there's a potential for the nutrient lockup in the soil, meaning that whatever you plant in that soil is going to have stunted growth and potentially run into issues with bacterial disease or any other type of fungal disease because it's now in amongst still decomposing organic matter. That being said, I have screwed myself up big time with my timing of prepping this bed and chitting my potatoes to go into this bed. I did not expect my potatoes to chit so fast, given I kind of shot myself in the foot with the way I did it. But basically, my potatoes have started to wrinkle. They're sprouting really well, but they've started to wrinkle, which is a normal part of the process. As the sprout's starting to grow, it's drawing energy from the tuber, because that's the whole purpose of the potato. The tuber is to provide energy for the new plant to grow. But it can get to a point where if it's not starting to draw nutrients from elsewhere, it's going to basically start to shrivel up and become soft and rot, which the seed potato does under the ground. But normally by that point, it starts to sprout its own roots too. So what I should have done, which is what I've done with these algae potatoes, I've left them whole. Left these ones whole because I'm using them for a little experiment I want to do later on down the track. The other ones I cut all of them in half to see if I can push my seed potatoes that much further and see how small I can push a seed potato to sprout. But as bought these at the same time, this thing isn't starting to wrinkle or anything like that. It's still chitting really well, mostly because it still has all that stored energy and therefore that little chit to keep growing, opposed to a small potato and that chit trying to draw from the small potato, which has left me with this predicament. I'm only 2 weeks in. There's the potential that the fava beans under this isn't quite fully decomposed. So to mitigate or try and mitigate the potential for the nutrient lockup and the potential for disease with my potatoes, one of the more common diseases is potato scab. It can generally be caused by your organic matter not being decomposed properly before you plant. It can also come from dry alkali soil as well, which is where it thrives, and it's much like it sounds, a scab on the potato. It doesn't affect your ability to eat the potato. You can still cut the scab off, but it can affect its storability. Storability, if that's a word, I think that's a word. Anyway, you know what I mean. It's going to affect its ability to store for longer periods of time. So what I've done is I've added more of my own compost. I've added chicken manure, sheep pellets, along with blood and bone, and some more added enzymes and bokashi tea to pump the microbes into the soil and get it going really well. Doing that should help not only break down the green manure faster, but fight off any bacterial diseases that could cause the potatoes to turn crap on me. So that's something I've been doing over the last few days to try and prep this bed as best I can so I can get these potatoes in and hope for the best. Hopefully this will work out. So I've been pretty busy over the last few days. I haven't been able to record it, so I haven't had any memory on any of my devices. And it's been raining, so I'm really going to keep pulling the camera in and out of the rain. But between the last video and this video, I have obviously put more compost and more garden soil on top. I've also added in dolomite, lime, as I said before, the chicken manure, sheep pellets, and a few other bits and pieces to try and get this bed going. I've since prepped this bed, prepping it with sheep pellets, blood and bone, and all that. I now have 50 corn, sweet corn variety, the bicolor sweet corn variety in there. I've since prepped this. We have 70 beetroots there between this bamboo and that bamboo, and 150 odd carrots. I'm also doing an experiment with the carrots bed behind me The last lot of carrots I did not work that well. They came out about that long and twisted around themselves, because basically the carrot itself is the taproot of the plant. And as it ages, that taproot swells, gets bigger. Over winter, especially during frost, it then gets sweeter, because as the plant's exposed to really cold weather, it produces sugars to help it survive. But with this bed, it was just too thick and gluggy and wasn't prepped very well, which is my fault. 9 times out of 10, if you're growing bad carrots, it's your fault. Your fault. You need to prep the soil far better. So I've since added a heap of pumice, aerated it like crazy, broad forked it. I added more compost and garden mix. I've added sheep pellets and lime and all of the above. I have also done my experiment where I've essentially taken a pole, taken a core sample at each spot where the carrot's going to go. I then put a toilet roll into that hole to hold it uniform, and then filled that with seedling mix and a little bit of compost to make it really fluffy. And that's what I planted my seed in. My theory is, doing that, the toilet roll is going to act as a barrier and allow that carrot to grow a really good taproot for at least that long before it gets introduced to any obstructions potentially, in hopes that by the time it gets that long, it is strong enough to keep pushing down through the soil and produce a really nice long carrot that's uniform. I think. We'll find out when I go to harvest it. Now the stakes are both in at 400s. We run a string line across the two. That gives us our straight line for the row. And each row we're going to do, it was 300 spacings. Yeah, we're going to do 300 spacings between each potato plant. That should give us, I think we measured out 13, but we only need 12. That's not 12, that's only 3. We only need 12. And then with the 10 rows across, because I say 120 plants for this bed. And then later on, I'm going to interplant with onions as well, providing I get my timing right with that too. I hope I have. As we plant the potatoes, we're going to plant them 150 mil deep or 6 inches deep. Are we hilling them? We're not going to hill them either. And we're not going to go with the hilling method. We're just going to do the 6 inches deep and leave it at that. And it should be good. So we're going to start with, we've got Moonlight potato variety. It's a really good all-rounder for your boiling salads, chips, and it's a really good storage potato too. Here's something I tried out. I cut the potatoes in half. I used cinnamon to basically act as like a plaster while the potato scabbed over itself. The cinnamon's supposed to have natural antifungal properties. So while the potato was scabbing, I put that on to try and prevent it from growing a fungal or mold. The weird thing is, the cinnamon grew mold itself, but not the potato. This is all surface, it's all superficial. I could just scrape it off and it was fine. Normally if you want to do these, cut them, leave them for a few days, let them scab, then you can put them into the ground. Generally let them chit until the sprout's about that big before you cut them. Like I said, I was on a time crunch and I screwed up my timing. Or if you are on a time crunch and you've chitted these properly and you want to cut them and put them in the ground, you can use wood ash. Wood ash acts as a really good barrier while it scabs over. Forgot I had this. I need to speed up my process a little bit. Digging by hand's all well and good, but I've got work tonight and it is coming up 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Carla had to go pick up a Larry, so she can't give me a hand anymore. So I'm gonna use this. If you haven't got one of these, you should get them. They're really good. I always forget I've got it. And it's not until after I've finished the job that I remember I've got it. By then, it's too late anyway. Oh, what am I doing? Ugh. I put so much work into making this bed so fluffy. It doesn't feel right walking on it. potatoes done. I've just realized I bugged up my map so bad. Just as I was finishing up the moonlight, I realized that I am one lot of plant spacings short with every row. I should have done 13 instead of 12. So for the next one, which is our early season potatoes, the ones we should be harvesting by Christmas, fingers crossed, I've got the Cliffs Kennedy. It's quite a fast grower, fast yielder. So I'm going to do sort of a into between spacings, so a zigzag between two of the rows to try and get all of them or most of them in, so I'm not wasting any of my sweet potatoes. Because they will be harvested early, I'm hoping it shouldn't affect the yield too much. And then this very last row will be the aggregate potatoes, which I'm going to use for my experiment later on in another video, so watch out for that one. Should be cool. So there's the Cliffs Kennedy done. How well they grow, I'm not sure, but again, like I said, they're an early season potato, so you kind of harvest them before they get to their full grown size anyway. You grab them when the tubers are only about so big. So it should work out alright. Maybe that last row of the moonlights might not do so well for the first little bit because it's so crowded, but that's alright. Next part, aggregates. And then hopefully in the next month or so we'll start to see some sprouts, and then by then my onions should be ready, and I'll get into the onions with the potatoes because they tend to go well. The scent of the onions tend to ward off some of the pests of the potato plant. That, and as I've said in previous videos, the interplanting between different plants and the microbiology that those root systems attract from the different plants creates this diversity within your soil that just you can't beat. No synthetic fertilizer is ever going to beat that. And that's the goal of this property. So I'll see you in the next one.